going to do pre-trip on my truck and trailer. I'm going to start with my approach. Just going to look down the left side. Left side, make sure there's no leans, leaks, or any damage. Checking underneath my tractor for any leaks. Checking out the driver's side or the right side for any leans, leaks, or damage. I'm going to check my marker lights up top. I'll make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're clean, the proper color of amber. I'm going to check my headlights to make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're clean, proper color of amber. Controls my left, right, and my four-way flashers and my high and low beams. Now I'm going to pop my hood. Swing on over to the passenger side engine compartment. I'm going to check out my visible lines and hoses, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Check out my coolant reservoir, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. That is filled to the proper level. Check out both my water pump and my air compressor. I want to make sure that they're both properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking, and they're both gear driven. Now, I'm going to hit my driver's side engine compartment. I'm going to check all my visible lines and hoses, ensuring that they're all properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. I'm going to check my windshield washer fluid reservoir, properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking, filled to the proper level. I'm going to check my engine oil. I'm going to pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, get a reading, act accordingly. Check my power steering fluid reservoir, make sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, check the level, act accordingly. I'm going to check my power steering hose right here, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. That feeds back into my power steering pump. I want to make sure the pump's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking, and that it's belt driven. I'm going to check my power steering belt right here, make sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, and it has no more than 3/4 of an inch play. I'm going to check my alternator, my wires, make sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the wires are attached securely. It's belt driven. I'm going to check my alternator belt, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. Has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. I'm going to check out my gearbox hose and my gearbox. I want to make sure they're both properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking, and that all my bolts are present and tight. I'm going to go down to my steering components right down here, my pitman arm, drag link, and my tie rod. I want to make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no excessive wear or play. All my nuts and bolts, castle nuts, and cotter pins are all secure. I'm going to check my leaf springs, making sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's broken, shifted, or missing. I'll move over to my spring hangers and mounts. Make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the nuts and bolts are in place. My U-bolts, properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's bent, done, or broken. Looking at my shock and my shock mount, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking, and there's no excessive wear on my bushing. Then I'm going to go to my brake and ABS airline, making sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Then I'm going to check out my brake chamber, push rod, and my slack adjuster. Make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Nothing's bent, dent, broken, or missing any parts. My clamp's securely fastened. My slack adjuster is at a 90-degree angle with no more than 1 inch of travel on my push rod when my brakes are released, and all my cotter pins are in place. Then I'm going to move on to my brake drum and linings inside my tire here. Make sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. All my bolts are present. They're free of oil and grease, and I've got a minimum of a 1/4 inch of lining. I'm going to check both my inner and outer rims, making sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no unauthorized welds. Checking my lug nuts, make sure they're properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're all in place and tight. Checking my hub oil seal, make sure it's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's leaking, and it's filled to the proper level. Now I'm going to check my tire. I'm going to check the inflation by checking my valve stem. Make sure my valve stem is properly secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Put a tire gauge on, get a reading, act accordingly. The tire itself has no abrasions, bulges, bumps, or cuts. Has even tread wear with a minimum of 4/32 of an inch of tread depth. We'll move on to my mirror. Make sure my mirror is properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's clean. It's adjusted to me, the driver. This is my door. It's properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I would open it, then I would shut it. I want to save that to last. Now I'm going to check my latches, my hinges, my door seal. I want to make sure all three are properly secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. My seal's not cut, cracked, or frayed. So when I close my door, it shuts and secures properly. These are my steps, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, or free of foreign objects. This is my side cab light, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, clean. Proper color of amber, controls left, right, and four-way flashers. At the back side of my cab, I've got DOT reflectors. Make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they're clean. My utility or my reverse light here. There's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, it's clean, proper color white. This is my exhaust system, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not leaking. If it were to be leaking, I'd see a buildup of black soot on my band clamps. This is my steps. My catwalk, if I had one, would be right here. I'm making sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they're free of foreign objects. Down inside here is my drive shaft and my U-joint. I'll make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no excessive wear or play, and it's free of foreign objects. This is my frame, my cross frame. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and there's no unauthorized welds. This is my fuel tank and gas cap. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, nothing's leaking underneath. I would remove the gas cap, checking the seal inside to make sure that seal is not cut, cracked, or frayed. So when I put my cap back on, it's properly mounted, secured. It's my splash guard, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Now I'm going to check my coupling. First of all, I want to check my air and electrical lines at the back of the tractor. I want to make sure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. As I follow my lines back to my trailer, I want to make sure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. They are properly connected to my glad hands. The seal inside is not cut, cracked, or frayed, or leaking. And that all of my overall hoses and lines are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, nothing's leaking. And it is supported off my tractor. Now I'm going to go to my header board of my trailer, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All my rivets are in place. Now I'm going to check the side of my trailer. Make sure there's no visible damage. Rivets are all in place. DOT reflective tape's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and it's clean. My side trailer light's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's clean in the proper color of amber. Controls left, right, and four ways. Now I'm going to do my coupling underneath. I'm going to point right up here. I'm going to make sure that my apron and my kingpin are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's bent, dent, or broken. My locking jaws are secured around my kingpin, which creates no gap between my apron and my fifth wheel. My fifth wheel skid plate is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's properly greased. All the nuts, bolts, and pins are properly mounted, secured. That sits on my platform, which is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the nuts and bolts are in place. My release arm, my safety latch, my locking pins for my mounting bolts for my fifth wheel slide. They're all out here. They're all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they're all still in their locked position. And as you can see, I've got plenty of clearance between my tractor frame and my landing gear. Now, I'm going to move on to this axle. I want to make sure that my leaf springs are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. None are broken, shifted, or missing. My spring hangers and mounts are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the nuts and bolts are in place. I check all my U-bolts, ensuring that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's bent, done, or broken. I'd also check all my shocks and my shock mounts to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and nothing's leaking, and there's no excessive wear on the bushing. I'd also check all my airbags and mounts back here, ensuring they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, and nothing's leaking. And up here at my torque arms, I'll check those to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and there's no excessive wear on the bushing. Then I'll go check all my brake ABS airlines, making sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. I check all my brake chambers, push rods, and slack adjusters. I want to ensure that they're all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, nothing's leaking. There's nothing bent, dent, broken, or missing any parts. My clamps are all in place. All my slack adjusters will be at a 90-degree angle and have no more than 1 inch of travel on my push rod when my brakes are released. And of course, I check all my cotter pins. Then I'm going to check the inside of my brake drum and linings, all my tires. Want to ensure they're all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's leaking. My bolts are all in place and tight, free of oil and grease with a minimum of a 1/4 inch of lining. I check all my inner and outer rims. Make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no unauthorized welds. My lug nuts, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, all in place and tight. My axle oil seal, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, nothing's leaking. It's filled to the proper level, and the lug nuts on my axle oil seal are all properly mounted, secured. I check my tires just like I did the front. ICD, checking for inflation. Put a tire gauge on the valve stem, ensuring the valve stem is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Put a tire gauge on, get a reading, act accordingly. The condition of my tire, I have no abrasions, bumps, bulges, or cuts. I have even tread wear with a minimum of 2/32 of an inch tread depth. These are dual tires, so I gotta check my date and spacer between them. I want to make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The tires aren't touching; they're free of foreign objects. I'm gonna check my mud flaps. Pardon me. Make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. And I've got reflective tape or reflectors on my mud flaps. I need to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they're clean. Back here, I've got a set of lights. 2 are red, 1 is white. White's for reverse. The red controls left, right, and 4 ways: parking brake, service brake, and emergency brake. They're all probably mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and they're all clean. Again, one's white, one's red. I'm going to check the underside of my trailer floor. I want to make sure there's no physical damage, no visible holes. I'll check my frame and my cross frame and my rivets. I want to make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All my rivets are in place. Up here, I've got air and electrical lines running down the back side of my trailer. Want to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. No abrasions, bumps, or cuts, and nothing's leaking. I would then check my landing gear, frame, feet, and assembly. I want to make sure that the whole assembly is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. My feet are fully retracted off the ground, and my handle is stored in its bracket. As I continue on down, I want to look at the underside of my trailer back here. I want to make sure my air and electrical lines are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. There's no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. Nothing's cut, cracked, or frayed, and it's lifted off the ground. Over here, I've got my tandem release arm and my locking pins. I just want to make sure they're both properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're all in place and they're tight. Now I'm going to come back here to my rear axle, just like the front axle. First thing I want to check is my leaf springs. I want to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's broken, shifted, or missing. I check all my spring hangers and mounts to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the nuts and bolts are in place. I check my U-bolts to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's bent, dent, or broken. Then I check all my shock and my shock mounts to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. And there's no excessive wear on the bushing. Just like the front, I check my airbags and mounts back here. Make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, nothing's leaking. And then I check my torque arms to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no excessive wear on the bushing. Then I would check all my airlines, air and ABS airlines, make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Check all my brake chambers, push rods, and slack adjusters, making sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Nothing's bent, dent, broken, or missing any parts. All my clamps are secure. All my slack adjusters will be at a 90-degree angle with no more than 1 inch of travel. My push-up, my brakes are released, and of course, all my cotter pins are in place. I check all my brake trim and linings back here. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's leaking. All my bolts are in place, free of oil and grease, with a minimum of 1/4 inch of lining. Check their inner and outer rims. Make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. There's no unauthorized welds. My lug nuts are all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're all in place and tight. My axle oil seals are all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's leaking. Filled to the proper level. And all my lug nuts on my axle oil seals are properly mounted, secured. Again, like I did at the front, check my tires for inflation. Make sure the valve stem is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Put a tire gauge on, get a reading, act accordingly. The tire itself has no abrasions, bulges, bumps, or cuts. Has even tread wear with a minimum of 2/32 of an inch of tread depth. Then I'm going to check my mud flaps. Want to make sure they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Checking my door hanger. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Checking my ABS low indicator warning light. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose. It's clean, proper color of amber. When this light comes on, it tells me I got half the normal operating air pressure in my brake system. I need to get the heck off the road. First thing I'm going to check back here, the back of my trailer is all my lights. I got my rear trailer lights, I got this back bank of lights, and I've got my clearance lights up top. All of these lights are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're all clean. They're all the proper color of red. They control left, right, 4A flashers, parking brakes, service brake, and emergency brakes. This is my door and my door hinges. Properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All my nuts and bolts are in place. These are my handles, my latch bars. Properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They do latch from top to bottom. I got my door seal, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. Does seal the entire backside of my trailer. Then I've got my door ties, reflectors, and my bumper. All three are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and my reflective tape is clean. That's it.
15 minutes.
Yep, that's the worst it can be.